And we are live.
Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to all of you watching us tonight, wherever you're joining us from. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you for being here tonight. For those who don't know me, my name is Sharon, and I am a mom. I still work, and I'm also building online around, normal everyday life. So, tonight, we are so excited. I'm joined by two amazing ladies, and we are just going to, thank you, ladies. So, we're just going to have a conversation, and I think this is a conversation a lot of us can relate to in different ways. And tonight, actually, it's our very first time running this. It's going to be running in sort of like a series, and it's called The Life We Were Told to Build. We just want to have a real conversation, open conversation. There's no right or wrong way we are saying things should be done or should not be done. And it's pretty much around money, growth and navigating, day-to-day things in life. But before we get into that, I will just let the ladies quickly introduce themselves. Ladies, when you're ready, maybe I'll start with you, Rijeko.
Awesome. I am so equally excited. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, welcome to the show. My name is Rujeko Mandala. I'm based in Melbourne, just like Sharon. So it's a good evening to you. I am a mom of two, a registered nurse, and I am so excited to be on the platform with you guys tonight. Thank you. Back to you, Sharon.
Oh, awesome. And Nashli, when you're ready.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Sharon, for hosting this one tonight. I'm Nashley from Perth, Australia, and a mom of two beautiful girls, proud digital business owners. So we're excited to be here and sharing this series with you guys. Thanks, Sharon.
Oh, awesome. So tonight's topic, guys, it's about this, where we taught to work hard or where we taught to build. Honestly, I think most of us grew up hearing more or less the same things, work hard, get a good job, be responsible, stay safe, those kind of things. But I sometimes wonder if many people were taught more how to survive than how to actually build something that can last them in the long term. And I'm not sure, ladies, what do you think about this one? Um,
Yeah,
I can leave it to
100%.
anyone ready to share.
100%. I definitely want, that on that point I'm thinking, look, we grew up from a generation, if you look at our parents' generation, they were the generation thinking of where we grew up in Zimbabwe, in our culture. They literally had just been liberated from the struggle, you understand, in my country. So that's the mindset in which they grew up in. For them, it was a dream to have a job. To them, it was a dream to have a white collar job. They grew up in a time where things were just, this is for the white people and this is for the black people. I'm sorry to be very direct, but that's how I think. So that's that's the parent, that's the generation from which our parents come from. And most definitely for them, you cannot teach or show what you don't know. So definitely building wealth was beyond what they could show for most of us who grew up. For most of us, definitely it was more of, you need to be educated so that you can have a good job. And it was a dream for them, for the children to have a white collar job. And that's where it ended. That was the big dream, so that's how I'm looking at this topic. We were not taught beyond that. I don't know. Anybody has a different point of view?
Ashley?
Thank you so much, Ujeko. But that's very interesting. Now, look, when I think of how it's been set up, this is something from even my mom this day. We're from a very big family, six siblings. So you can only imagine what, what was also instilled in each of us. Our
Mm,
parents didn't get, the best education background, but for them, because they didn't get the opportunity, they really wanted to enforce, that the kids make sure that they do go for those, the higher education, the degrees, the masters,
mm,
just to make sure they make it in life, just to make sure we were set better, because they even thought had they had enough education back then, they would have been also as privileged as we are in this day and age, where we get
mm,
to actually choose a job you want. You get to go out there and, go for the biggest or highest paying job you can find, in
mm,
this day and age. But it's funny that even into this day, where we have people who are educated, people who are, they are simply, they've got all things that you'd consider, like, you tick all the boxes that we have now,
mm,
that way our parents made possible for us all.
mm,
Or maybe some people have probably put themselves through the education system and learned and done a degree, done a master's, a diploma.
mm,
In this day and age, people can't find a job. It's hard now for people to still find maybe that kind of a job that they want. Many people I know are going, through life right now jobless, and probably don't have much is maybe our parents would have been telling us from when I was little. I was literally remembering my mom saying, "You gotta study hard. You gotta get that, best paying job by you making sure you studied, you're ready, you're equipped with all the tools necessary to live in
mm,
this day and age, where get that white
mm,
collar job."
mm,
And from that, for me, I grew up knowing that I knew I had to go to do my at the time, back in Zimbabwe, O levels. I set for A levels, and then you go to
mm.
university. So all that I did, thinking in my head that if I go through this, then it would mean that I would have made it
I'll
in
be
life. It
set.
meant
I'll
that
be set. Exactly.
exactly be
Yeah.
set for
Yeah.
life. That's what I exactly
Yeah.
did. But now that I'm an adult, honestly, some of it I look back and I'm like, was it really though? Or maybe things have they
Mm,
changed? As life
mm,
just caught up with us and things around us don't seem to, share
mm,
the same light for what we were taught then, and up until
mm.
this age. So that's
Yeah.
what I would say, Sharon. I don't know if you have anything to add on there.
Mm,
Yeah, that's actually true. I'm just, from what you were saying, ladies, I'm just thinking, um, we grow up, like, for me, really watching the parents do all they did, like, try to buy assets, try to do all sorts of things to make things work. Through that, I was sort of like just watching and learning, and I'm not sure if it was the best way, but from that, it's not necessarily that we sat down and had conversations about this, but you sort of like just copy what's in front of you. And that's pretty much
mm.
what I had
Exactly.
watching the parents do what they
Mm,
did. And it was the sort of thing where you spend time away from family, you use all your energy, strength. You really had to be able bodied to do all these things, and you sort of like think, okay, that's what I've got to take after. So I don't know.
mm,
I just feel like I've just been taught, not necessarily taught, but whatever example was before me was more of surviving rather than building. Yes, there was a little bit of building there, but the
mm,
way the building was happening, it was more like a survival, really. And I think a
mm,
lot of people can relate to that, you know
mm,
so especially the pressure, the pressure just to just keep going, to just hustle and keep going. And sometimes people did everything, right. You could tick all the boxes to say it was done right, but the struggle was still there.
mm,
And I think probably that's why younger people look at work, in a different way nowadays.
mm,
So, just from that, do you think younger generations want different things from life compared to the older generations?
Look, it depends with what you mean by younger generation. Are you talking about the Gen Z generation? We are also a younger generation ourselves. You know what I'm
I was
saying?
I was
I,
thinking about it too, Jacob, and I was thinking, oh, I don't think I'm older generation. Or I know what you mean.
but I think if you look at it from the perspective of the times in which we're living in, it's 100. It's, technology has made things just change so fast too quickly.
Yeah,
When we grew up, 5 years was really like, whoa, 5 years. 10 years was a real decade.
Yeah.
uh, in 10 years for things to change. But in our days, 10 years is a very small amount of time.
Yeah.
Mm.
In 10 years, how many series of A phones, Apple phones would have come out? Do you know what I'm trying to
Mm.
say?
Mm,
So we're just living in a very different, totally different generation. Number one. Number two, we are living in a different culture. Most of us have migrated into a different setup. And the way our kids identify themselves is so different to the way, we had
Yeah.
identified ourselves when we were in Zimbabwe. So
mm,
it changes a lot of things in terms of communication. We are the ones who are having to learn to communicate with them. You
mm.
talked about, us not having any conversations with our parents. Oh, very true. They were so conservative. They showed you how it was, and there was no question. You never answer your parents. You understand? But
I
we're
know what you mean.
we're now, we're now living in a generation where with these kids, especially who have migrated, they are exposed to all these different cultures,
Yeah.
and they are a lot more faster than us.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to catch up with them, and we are having to come down to them and make those conversations. So these are kids who are more open minded, exposed to more things. They're learning their curriculum, everything about this. It's different from what we saw. So we are the ones who are having to catch up and learn how to be more open-minded. Okay, let's talk about the future. There's this road and there's that the road. There's multi. You can make money in so many. You can have so many streams of income. We are having to catch up with what they're already learning. So I don't know where we stand really. Like, is it a disadvantage? Is it an advantage? You know, just times
I
have changed.
I know what you mean. I look at what my kids learn at school. I'm like, what? They're teaching that in school now. I remember what they're learning nowadays. I used to, back in the days, we used to do it in high school, but they're doing it in primary. So I get what you mean when you say,
Wow.
we're having to catch up. They're learning too quick. Hey,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. What do you think, Nashley?
I think the same thing. I had a friend trying to convince me to homeschool. I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to teach
I
them.
know.
But like you guys said, it's a catch up game. You're always busy trying to you educating yourself as you're educating them. You're also having to look back and say, okay, what is this that I don't remember? How do I do it? So, and already, with technology, like Nijoko already mentioned, that's something that's going with or without you on board.
With or without you.
Mm,
It's not changing, it's not going backwards. I mean, AI now, it writes the whole thing. Like, there's just so much people who can show
yeah.
up online acting like it was you, and you're like, that wasn't me, I swear. So it's all those things that are, I guess that there's good and bad to anything, but it's scary how the rapid speed that it's actually taking off. And I'm like, I don't know,
Yeah, it's
because it
true.
feels so overwhelming. But at the same time, we gotta catch up and try, keep up with it, because our kids will continue with the same progression, and it becomes normal. They probably don't use books. Instead, they'll be doing things on computers, which some of us
Mm.
back in the day, maybe you didn't have had a computer until you're like what, like in maybe A level or in the university, and
Oh,
that's it.
I'll tell you something interesting about computers. I left high
Yeah.
school, I did my A levels when they were starting to raise funds for a computer building.
Oh,
So,
wow.
you know, so
Oh,
What does
gosh.
that tell us? Oh my goodness.
I know.
Oh my- Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Anyway.
thanks, ladies, for that. Yeah, I just reckon younger people, they value flexibility more than we did. I think back in the generations, I speak as if we're ancient. We're not that ancient, guys. I think people, wanted more stability, security and stuff like that. But I reckon the younger generation sort of like want flexibility, moving around, doing what they want to do. They want to have
Mhm.
that balance. It matters more to them now.
Mhm.
And digital opportunities, I find, have changed things. Like you say, both of you ladies, as I say, the generations before were valuing security more. Success looks different now, as you've already mentioned.
Mm.
So I find that people still want stability, but they also want freedom. And I think people want more balance also, be it younger generation or the generation of today, uh, of yesterday. But something else I notice is that sometimes people almost feel bad, for wanting that stability, So
Mm.
why do you think that is? Why do you think people feel like they are not doing the right thing by wanting stability?
Mm.
Well, I think with that one,
So I
Sharon,
may have phrased that incorrectly. By wanting, feel bad for wanting more than just stability. So, yeah, do you get that part?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, I get you. Yeah.
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 If you
so
would like to share, yeah.
yeah, I can have a go first. So is it that in my mind I'm thinking, yeah, is it that people actually just they feel bad that they want more out of life, or is it that they actually just fear that people around will think, well, look, you went to school, you've got a good job, you're a lawyer or you're a teacher, so why is it that you want, more now, or to look at other options that might be able to give you more than what you currently have? Because people sometimes, I think, they always set a bar for what you have and what you should be like thankful to have. So why bother do something else than you already have, that probably could give you, the same life that they might think, oh, this is comfortable and this is just right.
Mm.
Some people look at, someone who's a doctor, they can't think of them doing anything else because they simply think, that is the best thing or best job that there is. So you have enough, you have it all, so why want something more? But I think it's actually fine for someone to want more. Sometimes you would have, started, instead of profession. I've known people who have done stuff like accounting. This is,
Mm.
and moved straight from accounting to start doing something in the health field. And I know also people
Mm.
equally who have started in the healthcare field, and now they are full-time business owners. But people want more out of all sorts of reasons. Sometimes at the start, I'm sure you'd have come from a point of, look, I want more, but I just don't know where to start. But when you do find the things that you want, that gives you that satisfaction of, look, I'm living life more for myself, and having that flexibility to do things that I already want, that maybe the job that you currently have might not allow you. I
Mm.
think it sometimes is reason enough for people to move or to shift and be able to pivot into in a new direction, which is good anyway. But not everyone looks at it that way. People are always a bit scared of, the judgment, the side eye
Mm.
perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, why
Yeah.
why your family? Not everyone
Mm.
supports you, but
Mm.
they don't see your vision as well. So that's what I would think there. I don't know what you think, Rejego, on this
I
subject.
I I 100% agree with you. That fear, stability presents, stability in a stable job presents comfort, recognition, I guess, if you're in a white collar position, and then having to step away from, you're somebody who is known, for example, you're a doctor or you're an accountant, and then you want to step out, you want to stretch, you want more, and maybe sometimes more means doing the unusual, which can be very, very, very fearful, very uncomfortable. People are going to question you. Why are you doing that? Look at you, look at your position. So it's all of that because we have a reputation to protect, right? At the end of
Mm,
the day. So yeah, I think I agree with that last point you mentioned there. Nashly, it could be one of the reasons. I don't know, but yeah,
mm.
yeah,
And and
yeah.
and also family expectations, isn't it? Like,
Oh yeah.
um, I don't know. You may feel guilty coming from Zimbabwe, also in culture, we grow up in families where things are done in a certain way. The
Mm,
culture expects you to do it in a certain way. So if you want to
mm,
try and step away from the usual, you sort of like have that guilt, hey, of maybe I should stay at the same point, just like everyone else. If you step out, you may feel like you fear being ungrateful, as if you're being ungrateful. So there's that cultural pressure. So people were taught to sort of like settle for safe, for the usual, and feeling selfish for it ends up feeling like you're being selfish for wanting something different.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm not sure. That's how um, I've sort of like felt. I know there's little things I've sort of like avoided doing because I felt, oh, what will the other people think? What will my parents
Exactly what we
think?
are saying. The look. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it becomes a bit tricky, and yeah, that may make you stay in the same place, I guess, not
Mm,
wanting to be
true.
selfish. Hey,
Yeah.
Mm,
yeah.
mm, mm, mm.
Oh well.
That's 100% true there, because yeah, I think for a lot of the time people like people to be the same. Moment you go past, or you know it allows you to grow bigger than what you were. It sometimes scares people around you, or although they sometimes don't see it, like they could look at you and think, well, this can't be right. I mean, they probably will share some laughs online, say, look, she started this and it's not, it's not all that. But then because they don't know until it's, gone boom, and then they'll have something as well to say. So we
Mm,
can't quite, I guess, always please people, but it's always about, if someone, you don't feel the same shoes you wore fit you well, you change, you move, you shift.
yeah.
And we should allow or have grace on ourselves to still, I guess, change, or allow change to be. Even though you might have come from a whole different background of learning, of studying, you can still do something else, that you find pleasure in, because you just don't know.
Mm,
But
mm,
only the society would allow you to change quietly and excitedly for you, but
mm,
unfortunately not. So it's still normal, and people still have to keep going.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think over the years, especially people have become more honest about how tired they actually are. And on that, do you think people are now starting to question, these traditional jobs or work? Do you think they are starting to question this more and more nowadays?
100%.
100%. And sadly, we are also living in a generation where, everybody wants that microwave fix, quick
Mm,
fix. How can I get ahead without this burnout, right?
mm,
How can I get ahead without this stress? I just want to wake up and I just want to find money in the bank.
yeah.
So it's yeah, it's a difficult one. But do they question wanting to do it the right way is another question.
Mm,
Okay,
mm,
so you're at work and then there's burnout. So how are you going to help yourself in the correct, healthy manner? And there we go again. We come back to that question of safety, safe manner.
mm, mm,
Yeah,
mm,
yeah.
uh,
yeah.
I,
Oh,
I agree with you
yeah.
there, I agree with you
Mm,
there, because if
mm,
that saying that says a quiet mouth doesn't get fed. I feel people nowadays, we are more outspoken about things we're happy about. I mean, maybe it takes you a while to sort of open your mouth to say, look, this is not right. It's like if you want to, a higher paying, a position, or you actually want, you deserve more, you do a lot more work than maybe, what you get, paid for, and you want to
mm,
say, look, this is not right. Not many people would go up and say, look, I need a raise. It's people can sometimes just sit there and be like, oh, well, the wait, but you've also never approached you to say, okay, just
that's
here you go, a
true.
raise.
Mm,
So it's sad
Yeah,
mm,
that it's that,
true.
because it's those who don't ever
Yeah,
speak or raise their head up when they think
yeah,
that,
that's
you
true.
do a hell of a good job in whatever you're doing.
Mm,
So, Jews gotta be
yeah.
paid for what's yours and rightfully yours. But when you feel those spaces don't respect those, moments where that you're worth more, and you don't want to be, I guess,
Mm,
kept at that sort of level of you only get so much and capped. You
mm,
raise your hand up or move to a new space, apply somewhere else,
mm,
so that
mm,
way
mm,
you don't have to be settling for what someone else values you at, to say, oh, she can only
mm,
get so much an hour. So
mm.
it happens every day. I mean, you know.
Mm.
Yeah.
But again, we gotta, think of, okay, I should be getting more than this, and give your own
Mm.
space or your own little corner where you can allow yourself to grow, or for that growth to occur, so that
Mm.
you can get more money than what you get now, or get that, better paying place than what you would have had in the old place.
Mm.
Yeah.
Funny
Wow.
enough, I had a conversation yesterday with a friend of mine, and she was asking me about a certain position at work that's there,
Mm,
and she was asking me, in relation to her qualifications. She says, "Look, these are the qualifications that I have. Can I actually do this type of position that you're doing?" I said, "Oh yeah, 100% you can." And imagine in
mm,
that same position, she could probably get probably 30,000 more per year per annum.
okay.
And we were actually starting to talk about how do we then strategically, what does she do to approach her boss? So people like that, Nashli, that you're referring to, who are brave enough to
Mm, mm,
actually ask for more, but in a
Yeah.
very, intelligent way. For them, it works. It does work out better. But for the most of the 80% of us, it's very hard.
Yeah.
We
it
want to
can be
stay
hard.
safe. you
Yep.
know.
Yes, you're like,
Yep.
oh, they'll
Yeah.
say I want too much money, but you deserve it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, but
Yeah.
I find people are tired, guys. People are really tired because everything
Mm.
just feels heavier. Everything just feels, there's a
World
lot of
is.
pressure.
Yeah.
And I think people are speaking up more, though hard. I believe, they're starting to sort of like speak up a little bit more. But at the same time, wanting more doesn't always mean, someone hates or dislikes their job. So someone can love what they do and still want more flexibility, more options, something more for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So loving your job, but wanting extra options. Um, what do you guys reckon? Do you think people are tired of these jobs, or they just want more?
A bit
They
of both,
definitely
to be
want
honest.
more. Yeah.
They
I
want
feel they
more
want
with,
more.
So,
sometimes yeah. Oh,
so
sorry, you go.
yeah, I was just gonna clarify. Sorry to cut you off, Ashley. So, can someone love what they do and still want more flexibility or more options for themselves?
You want to go first?
You go ahead. Sorry. 1 minute.
So, definitely, it's something that is very possible. I can still be doing what I'm doing now. It's like, I'm doing this online business, for instance, and I still run alongside it my other job. I didn't necessarily have to quit, and say, look, I've stopped here and then I do one thing. No, because I do think there's benefits in each one of them.
Mm,
Um, I held on to my other job so that I can still fund and finance my day-to-day running of my online business until I have to come to a point where I'll let one go and focus on one. So I could still absolutely love your job, or you could love your job, and maybe even enjoy going there, but it doesn't mean that you want to give your entire time and existence into one thing. I wanted to move away slightly into something that will give us more, I guess, freedom and flexibility. We have young kids who, again, we said the advancement into what they're learning now in school, it's quite quicker. It's at a pace that I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever catch up to speed to it. But the more I'm there and around my kids and I'm able to be present, the more it will allow me to learn and develop myself alongside them. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm homeschooling, but at least I get to do stuff with them. I get to attend the sporting, I get to attend those important moments as well, so that we don't have to choose that I have to only go in to work for the dollar, but then at the expense of my kids losing out or missing out on a mom who's present. Um, I, for one, I know Sharon might agree with that. That mom wasn't ever a person who works, local. She worked cross borders because she had to go find means and ways to which to support all her kids and make sure that we're well catered for. But that came at a cost of, right now, if I'm to remember, so many more memories when I was young. I don't remember mom being the one to attend any of my events because she had to work. So had it been that at the time she was doing, that thing. If had she found an online business, who knows, she could have maybe ventured into something that
Mm.
might build some flexibility to allow her to be more of a present mom at home and not just financially being able to provide. So it goes both ways. You can always choose what you want, but it's a possibility that someone can still earn and still be a present parent and still be present to, I guess, travel. People will like different things. Some want to travel. Some simply want to have the flexibility to know that I'm able to stay home on a day where I'm like, look, I don't feel well. I just want to be home. It's too cold to go out. And they don't have to be like waking up to an alarm at 5 o'clock in the morning. So, yeah, it's possible.
Mm.
Thanks, Sharon.
Mm. Mm.
Mm, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
It,
And
um,
and I think
yeah.
there's another point. Sorry, Sharon.
Okay.
There's another point there to, yes, you're passionate. Maybe your job is who you are. Maybe it's your calling. It's your passion. It's everything. And stepping out of it would feel like you're not working in the place that you're supposed to be in life, which is that is fine. But one thing I've learned about people who step out, people who want to do something different, who want a little bit of a change. It doesn't mean that you're leaving a job, but just a little bit of your change. You actually gain what I have noticed, like personally, what I have learned is your maximum potential in life. You learn life in a different lens. You learn to exercise different characteristics of yourself that you never knew existed, especially when we talk about personal growth, when we
Mm,
talk about professional development. You really, really actually maximize your fullest potential. So here you are working in your passion, but here you are trying different, but
Yeah.
actually you could actually excel in it because you're discovering new characteristics about yourself. And you know what? You'll actually start to enjoy it.
mm,
So,
mm,
yeah, for me, it's if you're in both worlds, you have your job, you're stepping out, you're trying something new. What does it mean? It means you are actually realizing the maximum potential in you that you have. So, yeah, it can
mm,
be
mm.
about that. Yeah.
Oh,
Back
awesome,
to you,
awesome,
Sharon.
ladies. Yeah.
Mm.
And look, your job is your starting point. I love my job, and the kind of
Mm.
job. Well, I've studied something completely different, accounting, but the job I do now, it's in healthcare. It's one that allows me to, um, like, it's flexible enough for me to be able to also manage my kids and other things that I'm building on the side, like my business on the side. So I love it. I love it because it's not stringent. It doesn't tie me down. It's very, very flexible. So I love my job, and I still want more options. Hence why I'm building online.
Mm.
So yeah, you can definitely love your job and
Mm.
still want more options, and that job gives you that basis anyway to start investing or looking at other priorities. And priorities change as life goes on. Sometimes you want extra
Mm.
breathing
That's
room,
true.
sometimes you just, for me, I wanted time with my kids. i
Mm.
I just wanted more time for myself and my kids, and wanting more doesn't mean you're ungrateful. You're just, yeah, things are evolving. Sometimes you just want more of those little things like breathing room and time with your kids or your family.
Mm.
So
Mm.
yeah, that was awesome. Before we
Mm.
finish up, maybe, ladies, maybe we can all each share a final thought. Maybe if anything comes to mind, feel free to share before we round up.
Yeah, I just want to say to people that one thing that, of course, we were told to build safely, right? One thing that we were never taught is taking a risk. And it's something I want to share and live to people today, that actually taking a risk is it's taking a chance, it's taking a step, and it's not always bad. And no matter what it is that new that you want to try or that you want to do, it's taking a risk anyway.
Mm.
Never be afraid to take a risk, because you never know what's on the other side for you to try. That's what I want to say. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Ashley?
Mm,
Thank you so much, Jaco. That just, I guess, emphasis on that point. It's bet on yourself. I mean, what is there to
mm,
lose? Really, when when you
mm,
have the world, and you also it's up to you to, I guess, decide how you want your life. We have one life to live after all. That you decide how you want to live it. So sometimes some chances you won't know until you open that door. You won't know until you let
mm,
yourself in to see
mm,
enough of what's possible, and not limit yourself as to, oh, look, this is what I was taught, so I better
mm,
stay safe, because sometimes
mm,
safety doesn't come with all goodness. It
mm,
only keeps you at bare, which is, if your heart sometimes doesn't even skip at the thought of you doing the things you do every day. Sometimes it does require you to experience those emotions running through your system, where you feel like, oh God, my heart is almost going to drop. But here I
mm,
am, I'm about to do this. Do that thing that is scary. Do that thing that is, making
mm,
your heart race, and not sure if you really want to
mm.
do this to begin with.
Yeah.
Scared, and that's all that it takes. And sometimes when you're on the other side, then you're like, oh my God, it wasn't so scary after all. So
Mm.
we all start somewhere, and take that next step if you have to in this life, because it's up to you to actually experience it. That's my message today. Thanks, Sharon.
Wow.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you, ladies. And you're definitely right. People are just, looking for a life that feels, a bit lighter, manageable, maybe.
Mm,
So yeah, thank you so much, ladies. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And everyone, I encourage people as you move along with us to comment or ask questions and be a part of this conversation if anything at all you feel like sharing. So thank you to all those who are watching us, and again, thank you, ladies. Have a good night, everybody.
good night. See you next week.
See you next week.